Welcome to the presentation for the class of 2020. This is information regarding registration for the 2016-17 school year. This slide is an overview of the graduation requirements for the class of 2020. As I go through the presentation, I'll go into a little bit more detail as to what to expect for next year, as well as your additional 3 years of high school. However, on this slide, I would like to point out the addition of one course. Right now we're calling it the Freshman Seminar, and we're working in all of those academic skills, career college readiness, some of those baseline skills to help students not only transition to the high school, but think about transitioning to the world after high school. For reference, as I go through this presentation, I'll be referring to this course registration card. Now, it was passed out during our informational night, but sometimes they wander away. So if you do need an additional copy, please contact your current school. They do have copies available. For the class of 2020, we are offering English and Social Studies together. So for first semester, students will have English 9 and Modern American Studies 1. Second semester, students will have American Literature and Modern American Studies 2. We're calling that as meeting for a full year and for 2 credits because it does meet for 2 periods or 2 blocks during the school day. Now, you'll also notice that we have an honors option for students. So those who are looking for maybe a little bit more of a challenge, or those who have really liked some of the honors courses they may have already taken, that is still available for you. You would register for Honors English 9, Advanced American Lit, and Honors Modern American Studies 1 and 2. If you look at that copy of the registration card that I have at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice that they are grouped together on the card as well. You do need to register for those courses as a group. So by the time you graduate, you are required to have 4 years of English. Now, I already went over the requirement for 9th grade. You're going to have English 9 and American Lit. 10th grade, they're looking at a world literature requirement for students. 11th grade, you can begin to choose some electives. One should be a literature elective, one a technical writing elective, and those courses can be found in the curriculum guide if you want to start looking ahead. And then in 12th grade, you can start thinking about more electives under the area of English, so maybe a public speaking course, for example. And in the area of social studies, students are required to graduate with 3 credits or 3 years. Now, during your 9th grade year, you should meet the Modern American Studies requirement. And then either in your junior or senior year, you'll be taking American Government. And then in addition to those 2 required courses, you will have 1 credit of additional social studies at minimum. And we have lots of electives that you might want to check out in the curriculum guide, including sociology, psychology, geography, lots of options available for you. Science. All incoming freshmen are going to be taking biology. And if you look at your registration card, it's already marked with an X to help you out. Now, biology will become a base as you continue on through science courses offered at Laramie High School. So after you take biology your freshman year, 10th grade, you could take either earth science, and that was formerly known as geology. Or if your math is strong enough and you have the prerequisites, you could take chemistry or physics. And then at minimum, you need 1 additional year of science. Math. Math can be a tricky one because this is really an area where students are at different levels. And for the high school, we want to make sure you're taking the appropriate class based upon where you are enrolled now as 8th graders. I would highly recommend that you chat with your current math teacher. They know your skills, they know your abilities, they can best match you with next year's math class. However, for your reference, I do have a list up here for you of the math courses in the sequence that you could follow. There's also a really great visual aid in the curriculum guide that was created by the math department. Because if, for example, right now you're in Algebra 2, there are some different paths that you could take. And again, your current math teacher is always the best resource for you. Students in the class of 2020 are required to complete 2 credits of PE Health in order to graduate. We are asking that you do take care of the 0.5 credits of required health during your freshman year. And if you look at a copy of your registration card, you're going to see a little X is already marked on there for you. Now, any time between your freshman year and your senior years, you can complete the additional requirements of PE. And they are specifying courses. We no longer have a PE 9 or a sophomore PE course. The courses are individual dual sport and team sport. Those are the 2 required PE courses. And if you look on your registration card, you're going to see those under electives under PE personal development. So team sport is course 8113. Individual dual sport is course 8114. And then in addition, students need to earn 0.5 credits of a PE elective. Now, if you remember from the first screen, students are required to earn 25 credits in order to graduate from Laramie High School. And although we went through specific core courses, there's plenty of opportunities for you to take a look at, for example, family consumer science classes, fine performing arts, and take a look at some of the sequence offerings that are available to students from grades 9 through grade 12. Now, one of the things I really liked to think about when I was an incoming freshman are some of those classes I wanted to take by the time I was a senior. So I would highly encourage you to sit down and think about what you want your 4 years of Laramie High School to look like, and maybe kind of think ahead at any of those prerequisites that you would need to take. So for example, if you want to make sure you can take auto each year, you might want to start thinking about taking an auto course earlier rather than later so you can get to the advanced auto course. And as a huge reminder, the requirements I've gone over so far are the minimum graduation requirements. For those of you who have been thinking about the Hathaway Merit-Based Scholarship, or maybe you're thinking about participating in collegiate athletics, you may have different requirements that you need to do in addition to these minimum graduation requirements. In the state of Wyoming, Hathaway is one of the biggest things we keep hearing about from grade K all the way up until post-graduation. And so for your reference, you can go to the WDE website and learn more specific information about the Hathaway Scholarship. Now again, it is a merit-based scholarship, and they're looking at 3 areas: your GPA, your ACT or SAT score, and the success curriculum or the classes that you take in high school. So again, another way to think about the Hathaway Success Curriculum would be the courses to take for college readiness. Now, Hathaway does prescribe these courses. So students do need to take 4 credits of English, and in the area of math, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and 1 additional year of math, 3 credits of social studies, 3 years of a lab science plus 1 additional year of science. And then, well, this is the spot where it gets a little bit tricky, a little bit more complicated to go over. So there is a world language requirement, and depending upon how you place your classes together and which tier of the Hathaway Scholarship you're going for, it's the World Language Vocational Fine Arts requirement. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that during the next couple slides. So there is a world language component for the top 2 tiers of Hathaway, and the top 2 tiers are the honors and the performance scholarship levels. So all students working towards those top tiers need to complete 2 years of a language plus one of the following options. So after you complete your 2 years of a language, you can go on and complete 2 additional years of the same language, Or you can complete 2 years of a different language, or 2 years of vocational coursework, or 2 years of fine arts coursework. Now, this is really, really tricky, I know, and a lot of you start to have questions going, well, wait, and some of those questions that do start off with, I would really encourage you to ask those questions so we can take specific looks at the coursework you've already started and to see how that would progress along for you. But you do need to have 2 years of the world language. Okay, here's the important component of this requirement. This work needs to be done in grades 9 through 12. Now again, it's really, really tricky, this requirement, because I know a lot of you started taking a world language prior to starting high school. A lot of you are in those courses right now. So let's take an example. Let's say you're an 8th grader and you're in French 1 right now. Your 8th grade French 1 will count, but you need to take French 2 in grades 9, 10, 11, or 12, and I would recommend going ahead and taking it in grade 9 because you've already started that coursework. It's going to be easier if you just continue on sequentially. Now, it's not for everybody. Not everyone wants to continue on and take French 1 in 8th grade, French 2 in 9th, French 3 as a sophomore. That's not for everybody. So during your 9th through 12th grade years, you could again look at a fine arts class, look at family consumer science classes. There's other coursework that can be put into place. When this requirement first came out, a lot of people were really nervous about how students could get some of that world language piece in, along with some of the vocational fine arts electives, or maybe take additional world language, and how everything was going to fall into place for people. And I've watched some students plan those things out, place them into their day, and really make it work. But again, I'd go back to what I had mentioned earlier, and that is really planning out what 4 years could look like for you. So that way you're finding a nice balance and making sure you can get all those courses in. And that's something where your parents, your teachers, where your counselors, that we can help you do. We can take a look at the courses you want to take and see how they're going to fit together so you can get what I call a tool belt of skills put into place, as well as meeting these requirements for the Hathaway Scholarship. It can be done. It's just really good to think about that in advance rather than when you're a senior in high school. So again, the first 2 slides we talked about were for the honors performance levels, the top 2 tiers of Hathaway. The 2 additional tiers of Hathaway are the opportunity and the provisional opportunity levels. For those levels of the Hathaway Scholarship, students can take either 2 years of a sequence language, or 2 credits of fine arts, or 2 credits of vocational career coursework. So again, as you think about those requirements for graduation, the requirements for Hathaway, ask questions, talk to people. But we're going to go ahead and move forward and think about course registration for the 2016-17 school year, which is a pretty exciting time because we're going to be in our new location on Boulder Drive. Now, I've been referring to all of the classes we have at LHS, and in order to find what those classes are, you'll need to go to the LHS website, look for the ribbon called Counseling. Pull-down menu will bring you to the 2016-2017 curriculum guide, and you can download a PDF of that version. It's a really good opportunity to take a look at the classes we have, start thinking about not only next year, but your next 3 years after that at Laramie High School. And it's also nice because you can use the Find feature in order to just look up a specific class that you may have questions for. Another very important component to point out at this point, for students who are on an IEP or receiving special education services, you really need to work closely with your current IEP team, and then that team works in conjunction with our team. And we have Nancy Lockwood, our case manager, and Laura Neiswinder, our team leader in special education. And they're going to work together in order to transition from one school to the next and really take a look at the individual needs of that student and come up with the coursework that's going to best support your student or you at the high school. And so their contact information is available here, but again, your current Teachers of Record, or IEP team, those are really, really good resources for you to still continue using because we all work as a team together to transition students from one building to the next. So every student has a registration card. And again, here's a copy of what the ninth grade card looks like. And if yours walked away, you misplaced it, those things happen. Another copy can be found at your current school. So feel free to just have them print off another copy and go ahead and use that card. So one of the first things you want to do is print your last name and your first name on the registration card. And then on the very bottom, there's an important spot for a parent's signature. And what this does is really just encourages you to have that conversation together. We want students and parents working together so everyone's on the same page. This is laid out with the required courses on the top of the card. And remember, those were the little snippets that I showed you during the slide presentation. And then the electives are on the bottom half of the page. As you go through, you pick out courses, make sure that you add up to 7 credits. Now, the one change would be is if you're enrolling in an LSC or a study hall, you would have less than 7 credits. But you need to have 7 credits to have a full day at Laramie High School. Something else to be careful of, prerequisites and signatures. So for example, you can't enroll in French 5 if you haven't even taken French 1. So pay attention to those prerequisites so you're not frustrated as you go through the registration process. You're also going to notice some little asterisks on your registration card. So a big one to point out would be Honors English. For students to enroll in Honors English 9 and Advanced American Lit, you do need to have a teacher signature. There's a spot on the back of your registration card for your teacher to sign off for you. In the past, that registration card was the only tool that we used to enroll students into classes. Now we found that it had its pros and it has its cons. One of the great things about it is there's a spot for teacher signature. There's a spot for parent signature. It's really easy to take a look at everything at a glance. It's a nice reference when you go home, so that way you can use it as an outline while looking at the curriculum guide. There's lots of benefits to it. However, it also had some of the cons associated with it as well. So we would get a card and we would look at it, and maybe a student changed their mind. That happens. So a student would mark that they wanted one class, change their mind, they had used pen, they crossed it off, and then they marked a different class, and then they saw their parent, and their parent said, no, 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 I want you to change it back. They'd cross off that X, mark another X. They got really challenging to read as students were working through that process. And then it would come here, and we would go, now, which class do they really want to take? We want to make sure we're enrolling students in the classes that they want. So we're using the online portal through PowerSchool to do the online course registration. Now with this process, we go to your student's school. We will sit down, we will walk them through the process. But it's a really nice way for students to see exactly what we're looking at on our end. So they know exactly what class they've marked. And if they accidentally mark the wrong class, they can go back and change it. They can also see prerequisites listed, and they're doing the work kind of themselves in some ways, but it gives faster information back to us as we create a master schedule, because our goal starting last year has been to get these class schedules in your hands before you leave school for this upcoming school year. Now again, we will be going to your student's school to help them pick out their courses. So they'll have their registration card already filled out, and we will help them place those courses online so they get the proper course that they really truly are trying to communicate to us. Now this is a sample screen. This is an admin screen, so that's why it has my name on it. A student is going to log into their PowerSchool portal, and it's going to say welcome and then their name on the top. And it's going to be a little bit more live for them. This is just a snapshot under my name. Now, if you look at your registration card, we had 2 categories on the top under required courses. regular English, social studies, and then the honors option. The screens are going to be set up very similar to what those cards look like. So we're going to walk you through those two options for this student that I have here on the screen. So looking at this screen, this student is going to, let's pretend, want to take honors English. They're going to click on the pencil that's right over there on the right-hand side by the blue arrow. Once that student clicks on the pencil, it opens up a screen within a screen. So this one is the honors option. Now, if you look at the prerequisites, it does say Honors 9 courses should be selected together. So English 9, Advanced American Lit, Honors Modern American Studies 1 and 2. So this student needs to make sure they're registering for all 4 of those courses. This is an example of an upperclassman screen. I believe this is a junior screen here. And I just want to show you this so you have an idea of what this is going to start to look like as you move from a freshman all the way through your senior year. So what I really like about this screen is this student wanted to enroll in biology 2. And it does say the prerequisite, so this student needed to have already taken Bio 1 and Chemistry 1, and the teacher needed to sign off on it. And this student did get that signature. They came, they saw me, I signed off on it for them. They have the prerequisites they need in order to enroll in Biology 2, and that's why that box is available for them on the left-hand side of the screen. Now on the bottom of this screen, it shows that in order to take AP Chemistry, a student must complete Chem 1 with an A or B, and then have that teacher approval. Well, this student doesn't have that teacher's approval, so the box isn't even showing up for them. Now again, in the larger scope of registration, we're hoping that this really helps students so they're not selecting coursework that they're not qualified to take, and then we go back and we have to keep changing things for them. We're trying to make this a very seamless process so students can see what they are able to take and then get into the courses that are appropriate for them. And again, we will be going to the schools to help with that process. We will walk your student through it. So as we move forward, this is a great time for you to talk to teachers, talk to your counselor, students, talk to your parents, parents, talk to your kids, chat about the things that they're thinking about for their future, what they might want high school to look like. Everyone being on the same page makes a stronger plan as you start from your 9th grade year and move through high school. This is also a great time to get those signatures. Remember the courses with a little asterisk on them. We already have one date set up, and that's on February 15th. We're going to start going to the junior high, and we will be setting up dates for the lab school and Snowy Range. So again, we will be going to your school and walking you through the online process. All we're asking is that you're filling out the registration cards in advance, so when you come in, we can kind of get to that next step and make sure that we're selecting the courses that are appropriate for you and can really answer some more specific questions for you. It gets really frustrating when sometimes kiddos come in and they go, "Oh no, I haven't done anything on this card." We don't want you to be frustrated. We want this to be really straightforward. So go ahead and start having those conversations and filling out your registration card in advance. And then we'll walk you through some of those more specific questions or through some of those logistics of how that registration screen looks. Now, usually about this time in the presentation, I can see some faces in the audience, and I know they're formulating the question of, isn't this kind of early? There are two ways to create a master schedule. So one, it's driven by the school. So the school says, we are going to offer a particular number of sections of each class. And then a master schedule is just created by the school, and students take the courses that are available. And then they're directly registering for those courses. That's one way. We do ours a little bit different. So right now what we're asking are for course requests. So when you go online, you are not going right into a section of classes. Your request is going there, and then we'll take a look at your request and the request of all your peers. So let's say after we do registration, it's found that 40 kids want Drama 1. Well, as we take a look at all the numbers, we will work to try to create enough sections for all of those kids to get that course. We do our best. It doesn't always happen, but that's what we're trying to do. Create enough sections to meet student need. That's why it's very important for you to request the courses that you really want to have your freshman year. So sometimes kiddos are kind of thinking about this, they're getting a little stressed about it, or they forgot we were coming to register for classes. So what they do is they just grab a card and they just mark some X's and they go, okay, well, it's just done. It's done. And while it's done, it's going to be entered. The thing is, it's going to be entered. And those are going to be the classes that student is probably going to see on their schedule for their freshman year. So as it turns out, we sometimes have those kiddos come back and say, I just kind of marked that. I didn't really want that. Well, those schedule changes, they're really challenging to do because what happens is the student's frustrated because they're in a class that they don't really want. They want a different class, and we might not have seats in that other class because we didn't have enough requests for it. So it's really, really important to be mindful of the classes you want to take because you'll probably see those on your schedule for next year. Now, in addition, as we take in all of your requests, we want you to take them seriously, but also we're going to be working to take care of any scheduling conflicts and getting them resolved before this school year ends. Now that could pose some challenges because we are going to be taking in a whole nother grade level. So we're just going to work through that as we get more and more information and really work with your current school to make these things happen. But next year, we will all be moving to Boulder Drive. And so it's going to be logistically challenging for changes to be made after that point. And so I want you all to be very, very mindful of the classes you're taking. Again, ask questions. That's what your current teachers are there for. That's what we're here for. Talk to your administrative team there. Talk to your counselors there. Parents, talk to parents. Get more information so you can make really good choices for you and for your freshman year at high school. Questions. This is usually the spot where I take in questions from the audience. And because now this is an online PowerPoint that's being done, I just kind of want to take the opportunity to put out there the questions, the answers that I typically hear at this point, kind of throw out there some of the things I was still thinking of to do a wrap up. So on the last screen, I spoke about how all of these classes are your course requests going in. PowerSchool is not taking in the classes you select at this point and scheduling students in because it's the student-driven schedule. So here's what is happening. You're entering the requests. PowerSchool is taking the information in. We evaluate. We create a master schedule based upon sections and student need. And then all of those course requests get entered into sections. So it's a process on the PowerSchool side to take and move your course requests into fulfillments of those options. And then we deliver the schedules back to you at your school. So I mention that just because I know it's very confusing when I'm calling these course selections or requests. And you're kind of wondering, how is that fitting in, especially when, for example, we are going into the junior high on February 15th. And I know some might be watching this going, oh, we have a basketball tournament maybe that day. We won't be in school that day. Well, you'll miss the day that we're going into the junior high, but that is not your only opportunity, nor does it mean that you or your child isn't getting a course that day that maybe they had wanted to register for. All it means is that's the day we're going in and we're taking requests, walking students through that process. Now for the kiddo who misses the 15th in that situation, they're going to be filling out their card, maybe sitting down with someone from the junior high, or maybe once we take a look at the number of students that are absent from our registration day, maybe we do a makeup day. We go back to the junior high, walk that group of kiddos through the process again. But they're all sitting in as course requests. Then PowerSchool takes that information in, we evaluate, we create the number of sections needed, and then the requests move from being requests to being fulfilled courses. So a student who misses that 15th in this situation is not missing out on a seat in a class. They still have that same opportunity if we enter their classes on the 17th. It will still be fine. Now, where it does become an issue is when we don't get those requests until after a master schedule is built. Alternatives. So while we try to meet everyone's requests, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes a section of art that you wanted is offered at the same time as a section of maybe French 2. So what happens is it boils down to choices, and we start asking questions about which class you'd prefer, and we take a look at those choices. Now, sometimes it happens where we build the master schedule, and the class that you had asked for, we just can't fit in. It does not fit in to the courses at all. So what we're going to do is take a look at the alternatives that you list on your registration card. So be very, very mindful of those as well. So after we run a master schedule, after we schedule students into all the courses, we'll run through and go, okay, who has an incomplete schedule? And then we start to take a look at those students' alternatives and we place them into classes. So it's very important to list year-long alternatives, semester alternatives, so that way we have some classes to work with to give you a complete schedule. Now, those are the major questions that typically come up, and I'm sure there are more wonderful questions out there. If you do have questions, feel free to contact your current school, current administrators, current teachers, current counselors. They're a great, great resource out there. You can also contact us at the high school. The best way to get a hold of us during this time of year tends to be through email because we are seeing kids all day long, and so it's really challenging to take phone calls that might come in because odds are we're probably working one-on-one with students. It's one of the favorite things we do here. So it's really good to go ahead and send us an email if it's a quick question. Now, if it's something that we need to chat about, we're more than happy to sit down and do that. It's just sometimes I know it gets frustrating when you're trying to call in and we're playing phone tag back. So it tends to be that an email question works out the best. We have 3 counselors at the high school, and our emails are available on our website, and you can contact any one of us to ask us questions. But again, use a lot of the resources at your current school. You've been there, they know you the best, and they can probably take care of it. And if they can't, they'll contact us too. So we do like to work together as a team to make sure that everything is moving forward for you, for your family as you go through high school. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and we're looking forward to working with you and coming into the new high school on Boulder Drive.